Usually after a best movies of the year list, you come out with a worst movies of the year list. So here are my worst movies of the year. Now, a little note here. I purposely avoided bad movies this year. When you're paying for your own movie ticket, you don't want to have to, go see bad movies. Even though they make for fun reviews, I just didn't want to spend the money on it. I'm also not a fan of horror movies at all. And for the most part, the bad movies this year were horror movies. So I really didn't see any movies that I would have really said are just awful, except for about 3. And so I'm only going to do the worst 5 movies of the year, and this is what they are.
Oh, yeah!
Okay, number 5 is a movie that I wasn't looking forward to at all because the first one was awful, and that is Wrath of the Titans. I thought Clash of the Titans was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And even though Wrath, I think, was better than Clash because there was no hype behind it and the Kraken wasn't retarded, that, it just, it was just awful still. I thought there were a couple good parts of it. I mean, I thought that Hades and all them were kind of cool. I liked the Liam Neeson was in it and a little more in this one. But overall, the movie was just awful. And so I'm going to say that that was the 5th worst movie that I saw this year. Okay, number 4 is probably a more disappointing movie than anything. And really, if you look at it, it's not that bad of a movie. And that is John Carter. John Carter had a $250 million budget, which is well over the budget for Inception. It's the same budget as Dark Knight Rises. And they come out with John Carter. It's literally like Attack of the Clones without Star Wars. So take Attack of the Clones and how awful that movie was, then cut Star Wars out of it, and you have John Carter. I mean, it was just awful. I hated the movie. I probably will never watch it again. And that's at number 4. Number 3. Now, number 3, I didn't ever plan on seeing. It looked bad from the beginning, and that is The Raven, starring John Cusack. Now, The Raven is literally a Sherlock Holmes ripoff that is just awful. It's not good at all. It's not clever. You don't care about the characters. You just kind of want everybody to just die and the show to be over with. That's literally, you're just like, this is stupid. And I just what am I doing watching this movie? It was literally a Sherlock Holmes ripoff that was just awful. And so that's at my number 3. Now, these last 2 are literally 2 movies that made me mad when I watched them. Even though number 2 made me more mad, it wasn't as bad as number 1. And number 2 is the grenade throwing off the roof of the building, Taken 2. Oh my goodness, how awful of a movie can you make? The shaky cam was so awful. It was you couldn't see a thing that was happening. Every half a second was a cutscene, in the fight. It wasn't like they literally let him fight. They kind of blipped anything out. It was like they told Liam Neeson, here, you and this guy fight, but don't hurt each other. We don't want you guys to get hurt. So when they're fighting, it kind of looks like they're holding something back, and you're like, why are you capturing this guy's family again? The story was awful. The villain in it at the end, with the way he kills him, he's just and he dies, and you're like, what? Huh? He's dead? Oh, it was just awful. And the grenades. Maggie Grace throwing grenades off of a building in this, place in Europe, and he's, listening for the sound of the grenade. He's like, okay. And you're like, okay, one time, I can deal with that. It's kind of a clever idea. She does it 5 times, and just grenades and cars are exploding. Nobody cares, and you're just like, this is so bad. They never should have made a Taken 2, and if they did, they should have just made it I thought The Grey was a better Taken 2, honestly. It was this is better. The Grey is way better, but Taken 2 is just awful, and I was literally mad when I got out of that movie. Number 1. Now, the worst movie I have seen this year. It is just literally awful. Paranormal Activity 4, you take the cake for the worst movie that I've seen this year. It was just awful. I saw Paranormal Activity 3, and like I said, I hate horror movies, but I saw Paranormal Activity 3, and that camera that pans back and forth, oh, that was trippy. It really got you, you didn't know what was going to happen. This movie, nothing clever at all. They had the dots from the Xbox Kinect showing, and you're like, okay, that was a clever idea, but it made it less scary because you could see the figure walking around. It was I'd rather not see him. There was no suspense. You didn't care about any of the people. The acting was just awful. I'm sick of this Paranormal Activity stuff. It's so dumb. And then you got these new movies coming out that are just bad. Don't watch Paranormal Activity 4. It's awful, and it still made a ton of money. So I'm going to say Paranormal Activity 4 is the worst movie I've seen this year. I know there's a ton of worse movies that I just purposely did not see. And starting off the new year, there's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. I will not be watching that. I heard it was awful. Hopefully my next actual movie review will be Zero Dark 30 on the 11th. And really excited for that movie. I might come out with one before then, who knows. But thanks for watching this video. Let me know what your 5 worst movies of the year are in the comments below. Please subscribe as always, right here. And if you like this video, watch my others. Till next time, peace.